Kensington Avenue Zombies. The Kensington Avenue Zombies are an all-too-real nightmare. There is a large population of unhoused and homeless people in Kensington. Many of these individuals are also suffering from drug addiction. But how are these people surviving? Here are some ideas. First, learn about the neighborhood. Kensington has an extensive number of drug markets. The problem is the lack of treatment facilities. It's not surprising that the residents of Kensington are afraid of these people. 30,000 heroin addicts in Philadelphia. The city of Philadelphia is a hotbed of drug abuse, and the neighborhood of Kensington Avenue has become a prime destination for drug users. Last year, the number of people dying of overdoses in the city was up 34% from the previous year. There were more than 900 deaths in Philadelphia last year, and the number is projected to reach at least 1,200 this year. Philadelphia's health department says overdoses are the number one cause of death in the 25 to 44 age group, and the second and third in the 55+ and older age groups. Philadelphia's health commissioner, Dr. Thomas Farley, says the problem is getting worse. A decade ago, Kensington had a drug problem that plagued the entire city. More than half of the residents of the neighborhood live below the poverty line, and the rate is more than twice as high as the city overall. In addition, the widespread availability of prescription opioids has only made the situation worse. Residents of Kensington often pass a twisted, zombie-like state of an addicted person. As a result, many of these patients stayed in the neighborhood to feed their addiction. In July 2017, Mark's girlfriend, Sarah, a Philadelphia resident, gave him his first shot of Philadelphia dope. They were on a road trip to South Carolina and had planned to detox slowly along the way. They needed more dope to keep going. They did a Google search to see if there were any bad drug areas in the area. Kensington was listed as one of the worst, so they decided to stop there. The rest is history. As the opioid crisis continues to reshape Philadelphia, the city is taking steps to address the issue. While it's still an uphill battle, a new initiative in the neighborhood has begun. Philadelphia has cleared the Gulch, an open-air drug market, in 2017 and removed the underpass encampments. This has triggered the creation of an alternative to a street-side encampment. The city's Office of Homeless Services has also begun to identify and direct the most severely affected individuals to treatment. 50 open-air drug markets in Kensington. If you live in the South Philly neighborhood, you've probably been to Kensington's open-air drug market. The market is a prime location for drug use, and white residents often drive in and out, narcotics in hand. Residents of color, however, are often told the market is a burden and a social problem. They've even been told that it's the cause of violence, destruction, and harm in the community. The problem isn't limited to one neighborhood, however. The neighborhood is a prime example of the aortic valve of the opioid crisis in the region. Upon exiting the subway, residents see injections taking place in broad daylight, tent encampments, and legions of trash. The situation looks a lot different from the perspective of a living room window. Despite its bleak reality, it's a reality for many. The problem in Kensington had been kept contained for many years, but now it's out in the open and isn't likely to go away anytime soon. The drug problem is largely piped in from Mexico's Sinaloa cartel. Local drug dealers compete for the same supply of heroin, much of it laced with the synthetic opioid fentanyl. Although the city's recent action is a step in the right direction, it's unlikely to solve the problem for good. The problem is so serious that it's affecting the residents of Kensington, including those on the street. In 2017, Kensington was the site of 2 additional encampments. In the meantime, Kensington officials opened emergency warming rooms and cleared away another 50 open-air drug market. In addition, residents of Kensington are commuting to the neighborhood in order to purchase drugs. And as a result, Kensington was home to the most deaths of drug overdose in Philadelphia, with 236 overdose deaths recorded last year. Mexico's Sinaloa cartel. The Democratic Party is meeting in Philadelphia this week, amid a highly contentious political climate. In addition to an increasing number of heroin addicts, Philadelphia has become a heroin hub, with the Sinaloa cartel leading the way. One local resident, Justin Smith, is living in the roadway tunnels in Kensington, sleeping on a stained mattress. He says he came to Philadelphia 6 years ago from Ocean City, Maryland, and is now a victim of the opioid crisis. While many people blame the city for the drug problem, the drug trade has its own set of reasons. Kensington has a growing Spanish-speaking population and is therefore a natural place for drug dealing. In addition, the drug trade in Kensington is 200% cheaper than in the Golden Triangle. So, if there's a connection, it's probably Mexico's Sinaloa cartel. The drug problem in Kensington was once largely contained, but it's now out in the open, and it's not going away anytime soon. The drug trade in the Kensington area is piped in from Mexico's Sinaloa cartel. Drug dealers in Kensington compete to sell the same drugs as each other. Some of the heroin is laced with the synthetic opioid fentanyl. There are two main causes of drug addiction in the area. First, the wide availability of prescription opioids has made the problem much worse. It's no wonder Kensington Avenue has a higher percentage of drug addicts than the rest of Philadelphia. Drug overdoses were common in the neighborhood, with many living in makeshift homes. And, of course, drug dealers are making money by extorting people and stealing property. Lack of treatment facilities. There are few treatment facilities in Philadelphia for drug abuse, which is a shame because this is a highly vulnerable neighborhood. The drug problem in the Kensington neighborhood is widespread, but the cause is less obvious. In recent years, the Kensington neighborhood has been the scene of 50 open-air drug markets and hundreds of millions of dollars in annual sales. While Kensington is not home to fields of poppies being processed into heroin, it is not uncommon to find abandoned buildings. The streets of the neighborhood are notorious for being a haven for drug addicts. In the 1980s, the area was home to the K&A Gang, an Irish-American organized crime group best known for methamphetamine distribution. Eventually, this crime group was supplanted by black street dealers who began selling heroin, crack cocaine, and fentanyl. Eventually, this area became known as Zombie Alley for its many drug victims. The city has an overdose epidemic that has disproportionately affected the Kensington neighborhood. In 2017, the city suffered the highest rate of opioid overdose deaths in the nation. Overdose deaths on Kensington Avenue were particularly high, with 236 fatalities recorded in the neighborhood. This situation has prompted a public outcry, with social media users shocked at the lack of treatment facilities in the area. The city has pledged $36 million to address the problem, which is a step in the right direction. Because the neighborhood is so dangerous, there are no designated treatment facilities for the homeless. The city has not adopted official boundaries and therefore, there is no way to pinpoint the area's boundary lines. However, residents and the community are generally referred to as Kensington. Kensington is considered to be the northeast neighborhood of Philadelphia. Kensington's unsheltered population is significantly higher than that of the rest of the city. The neighborhood was once an industrial neighborhood, with factories and homes lined with migrant workers. However, as the area became increasingly poor and disadvantaged, the neighborhood quickly turned into a drug market. The abandoned buildings became shooting grounds, drug dens, and encampments of the homeless. The drug crisis in Kensington has impacted residents on a street level. The streets are littered with trash, needles, and feces. Brick walls are covered with missing posters and drug dealers are openly selling and offering free samples. There are people smoked crack and injecting meth, with needles all over the place. Despite the grim situation, it is not the fault of the drug dealers, but it is the fault of society and the entire neighborhood.